What is up, Yankee fans? I'm Ryan from Fireside Yankees, and a report from John Heyman of the New York Post has come out, and it is in regards to the Yankees and DH JD Martinez. Now, the report details that there's been some contact with DH JD Martinez, who spent last year with the New York Mets, but that it might be hard to figure out how to bring him in as a stopgap player because there is surely hope and expectation for Stanton to return. Now, Giancarlo Stanton's injury situation is pretty clear. He has an elbow issue in both of his elbows, and the tennis elbow soreness issue seems to have been something that has shut him down from swinging or doing any baseball-related activities. But what I think threw a wrench in a lot of the plans of the Yankees and kind of a curveball in that saga was the fact that he went to New York City originally because of the tennis elbow issue, or at least that's what was reported by Randy Miller of NJ.com, just for it to turn out to be something personal. Now, I'm not going to sit here and speculate on what that personal issue could be. Aaron Boone left it at, it is a personal issue, and that if Giancarlo Stanton wants to come out and talk about it, he can. I am not going to speculate on what that could be. I think it's inappropriate and it's unfair to Giancarlo Stanton. And so for those reasons, I'm going to move on from that and talk strictly about JD Martinez here. And again, just send some well wishes to Stanton and hope everything's okay. In regard to JD Martinez, though, the DH spent last season with the New York Mets, where he posted a 108 WRC plus and hit 16 home runs in 120 games. JD Martinez has shown an ability to hit for power, but last year was a step back for sure in the power department. Hitting 16 home runs in 120 games and having an isolated power in the 170 range is certainly something you don't expect for someone like Martinez, but I think that a lot of the traits he had under the hood last year were still really positive. He hit the ball really hard. His zone contact rates, which did get worse throughout the season, were roughly where they have been throughout his entire career. In fact, they were a little bit higher this year at 84.1%. And his ability to do damage on contact was still there. He didn't chase a lot. It just felt like JD Martinez got maybe a little unlucky. He was in the 86th percentile in expected weight on base average at 351. He had an elite expected weight on base average on contact, which is ex-Wobicon, which is a metric that just measures how well you're doing damage on contact. If you want to use a little more easy to understand StatCast data, his barrel rate of 14.9% was in the 94th percentile. It is one of his best individual marks in his major league career, so that's encouraging. And his ability to hit the ball hard to the opposite field as a right-handed hitter makes him someone that actually appeals to me if I'm the Yankees. Now, there are complications with bringing on JD Martinez. We'll talk about that in a bit. But when it comes to how he fits onto the roster, how he fits the lineup, he fits as a guy who can drive the ball the other way and provide some offense against left-handed pitching. I think there's a serious problem on the roster when it comes to the Yankees' ability to get right-handed production from their hitters. They don't have a lot of right-handed power depth without Giancarlo Stanton. It kind of rests on the shoulders of Aaron Judge and aging Paul Goldschmidt. And while I understand the ironic nature of talking about an aging Paul Goldschmidt and JD Martinez in the same sentence, I do believe that JD Martinez will be cheap enough that taking a flyer on him isn't the worst thing in the world. And again, that ability to drive the ball to right field is something that will serve well at Yankee Stadium. Had JD Martinez played all of his games at Yankee Stadium, he would have hit 22 home runs instead of 16, which again, in 120 games is pretty damn good. I do believe ultimately that he has regressing skills that may result in a very disastrous 2025 season, but there are ways in which this could be productive for the Yankees and a no-risk deal. I think JD Martinez's market has kind of crumbled and fallen apart, most notably because the teams that spend money already have DHs, and the ones that don't spend money aren't going to sign a DH. So it leaves Martinez in a precarious situation where he's not going to have really any suitors, and he wants to play in 2025. And there's a reason he wants to play. It's because he can still hit the ball hard, and when he can still hit the ball hard, yeah, you should still look for major league opportunities. He cut down his whiff rates a good bit from the couple years prior. He cut down his chase rate from the years prior. Again, he still does a ton of damage on contact. It's a profile that just works at Yankee Stadium because of how hard he hits the ball in the air, and perhaps he's someone who can galvanize this offense while Giancarlo Stanton is out. Now, as for why this may not make a lot of sense, the roster fit is extremely suspect. The Yankees would have to add someone who is purely a DH, not a DH who can occasionally play the outfield, but a 100% DH onto their roster, clog up the spot, and try and find a way to bring back Giancarlo Stanton. Now, I understand that JD Martinez could phase himself off of the roster, but if he plays really well, you have to keep playing him. You cannot entertain the idea of taking him out of the lineup if he's hitting well. And if you're JD Martinez, do you want to have the pressure of knowing that when Giancarlo Stanton comes back, you're going to have to play at an extremely high level in order to keep your job? I think that's something that people aren't accounting for enough from the standpoint of Martinez, who maybe doesn't have the Yankees that high up on his suitors. I don't think that JD Martinez would want to go to the Yankees more than other teams who maybe have a little more clarity at the DH spot. There just aren't a lot of suitors here. There are not a lot of teams that are looking to sign a DH and spend real money at the position. If you look at the teams that project really poorly at DH, you have teams like the Rockies, which they don't really seem to be a team that's willing to spend that money. The Marlins aren't a team that spends money. The Pirates have Andrew McCutchen. The White Sox aren't a team that likes to spend money. The Giants might be a suitor here, but I don't know if they're going to spend money on JD Martinez. The Mariners, similar situation financially. I mean, a lot of these teams that really struggle to have DH production are teams that just don't make sense for JD Martinez because they don't spend a lot traditionally. And honestly, if you're JD Martinez, these are some teams that you maybe just don't want to go to. Do you want to go spend a year of your career at the White Sox and have a 0% chance to win a World Series there and pray that maybe you play well enough to get a spot on the roster and get traded? That's a possibility. If you're, looking at the Giants, it's not a great ballpark for a swing. Same thing with a team like the Mariners. I mean, Seattle has become one of the worst places to hit in baseball. So I just think if you're JD Martinez, your market has complicated itself. You're no longer the hitter you were a few years ago. You're not playing a premium position. It's not necessarily something where he can be a chooser. He's kind of a beggar at this point. But for the Yankees, I don't know if the roster fit makes all the sense in the world. It's very dependent on Giancarlo Stanton's injury situation and kind of his situation as a whole. Again, I don't want to speculate on what it is, but if it's something that will keep him out for a large chunk of the season, over 50% of the season, and JD Martinez is willing to sign a deal that's around $2 to $3 million with maybe some incentives, I would be willing to do it. I'd be willing to do it. I actually think the platoon fit with Ben Rice makes a lot of sense. He crushes left-handed pitching, and if you pair that with Ben Rice, you could have really, really strong production at DH. Would I still like the Yankees to go out and get an infielder? Absolutely. I want them to get someone to help them at third base. But JD Martinez is someone who's capable of hitting. He's someone who's capable of providing some power, especially with that short porch in right field. He's someone who is a veteran who brought something to the Mets, in my opinion, through the weighted bat training he did and how he introduced that to various guys at the AAA level and at the Major League level for the Mets. I think there is value in having a JD Martinez on your team that can't just be described in data, but I don't think that value is enough to outweigh that. The roster fit just doesn't make sense unless Stanton's really hurt, or Stanton's not going to be around for the 2025 season, or Stanton's not going to be around for like 60 to 70% of the 2025 season. And even then, JD Martinez comes with his own red flags, and those red flags are important to talk about. The second half was really ugly for him. His OPS dipped below 650 after having an 806 OPS in the first half. Do I believe in first half, second half's OPS stuff? Not really. I mean, OPS and WRC plus are metrics that are pretty consistent in terms of how you use them. First half and second half OPS, or first half and second half WRC plus, are far less predictive than full season WRC plus. So, the ups and downs of a season, they really can kind of just happen whenever. I think in JD Martinez's case as well, it should be noted that his underlying metrics were still pretty good last year. So, it's not like he had bad underlying metrics as the season went on. He got off to a fast start, slowed down a little bit, but the underlying metrics were still pretty good. He still made a decent enough amount of contact. He still did a decent enough amount of damage compared to his numbers prior to his slump. So I'm not of the opinion that he's going to look like the worst hitter in the world. That chance is still there because he's just old, but I don't think that second half makes it more likely that he's going to crash or hit a wall in 2025. I just think it's something that you don't want to see. And again, I just think maybe part of it's the ballpark. Citi Field is not as good of a fit as Yankee Stadium is for a swing, and the underlying metrics are still really damn good. I'm conflicted here. On one hand, I think the bat makes sense for Yankee Stadium. I actually really like the fit. On the other hand, I don't love the idea of clogging up your DH spot. I don't love the idea of, JD Martinez, DH, only plays against left-handed pitching, or, signs an $8 million deal with the Yankees, or, puts the Yankees in a weird spot where they got JD Martinez and Giancarlo Stanton on the same roster. It just, like, those things don't really make sense. But everything's kind of up in the air with Stanton, and because of that, the door for JD Martinez might be open. It might make sense. We'll have to wait and see. With that being said, though, we'd love to know what you guys think in the comment section below. JD Martinez, are you for it? Are you against it? Do you think Stanton will be back in time? I mean, what do you think is going on here with the DH spot? We'd love to get your thoughts in the comment section below. We appreciate you guys checking out Fireside Yankees on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, and of course, this YouTube page. And you can check us out on EmpireSportsMedia.com for written coverage as well for all of your favorite New York sports teams, including and especially your New York Yankees. We appreciate you guys all for tuning in and sticking through to the end of the video, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, everybody. Have a great night.
Perfect.